Hi, this is Dave from Priority Bicycles. We're honored that you decided to buy a Proof. We're really excited about this bike. It's our first bike ever painted, assembled, and built in Montgomery, Pennsylvania. Let's get started with your assembly. Now, before we get started, it's important to know that we always recommend that you either have a professional bicycle mechanic assemble your bike, or if you're choosing home assembly, to make sure and have a professional bicycle mechanic safety check your bike before you ride. I've put our contact information on screen. If you have any questions now during the assembly or later, please reach out to us. Text and email always receive our quickest response. Now let's remove your bike from the box and remove all the packaging. After you've removed all the protective packaging from the bicycle, let's open up your parts box and look inside. Inside your parts box, you'll find your Priority and Gates owner's manuals. Now's a great time to stop and read these completely. A 4, 5, and 6 millimeter Allen wrench, which we'll use for this assembly, together with a 15 and 10 millimeter open end wrench. You'll find a front, which is clear, and rear, which is red, reflector. A front headlight, a front wheel quick release, and 2 pedals, labeled at the end of the axles R and L for right and left. If you have 3 AAA batteries, now's a good time to put them in your light. Go ahead and remove the Phillips head screw from the front of the light. Then open up and angle down on the light to get it unhooked. Inside, you'll need to put 3 AAA batteries. 1, 2, 3. Your light may turn on. You can turn it on and off using this white switch. Then go ahead and reinstall it by first hooking in at the top and reinstall the screw. With batteries in your light, you should now be able to use the black top button to turn it on and off. Let's now get started with the assembly. Next, we're going to install your handlebars into your bike. You're going to need the long arm 6 millimeter Allen. Now, before we put the handlebars in, notice the direction of your fork. When we ship the bike, the brakes are facing the rear. Before we install the handlebars, you're going to want to turn the fork around so that the brakes are facing front. Be careful to do it such that your cables all stay in front of the bike. With all of your cables in front of the bike, grab the handlebar stem and insert it into the head tube of the bicycle. With the handlebar stem inserted, make sure you insert it at least past the minimum insertion mark. So the minimum insertion mark should not be showing. Go ahead and tighten. You don't need to get this too tight now because we'll come back and adjust it later. While you're here, go ahead and loosen the pinch bolt at the top of the stem and raise your handlebars so that the grips are at least level with the ground, and tighten. Again, we'll come back later and tighten these better. Now, let's go ahead and install the front wheel. Get the quick release from your parts box. Notice that your tire has a directional tread. With the arrow pointing forward, grab your quick release. Remove the nut end and 1 spring. Slide the lever end through the right side, and then on the left side, put the spring, thin side towards the hub, thick side out, and then loosely screw on the nut just a few turns. Let's go ahead and install this in the bike. Notice on your brakes the black lever. Make sure the black lever is positioned all the way up before you insert your wheel. With the directional arrow pointing forward, lift up the front of the bike and go ahead and put the wheel into the fork dropouts. With the wheel in the fork dropouts, now start to tighten the left or nut side of the quick release. You're going to want to open the quick release lever on the right side. Tighten the lever on the right side while holding the nut on the left side until it's finger tight. Once it's finger tight, go ahead and try and close the quick release lever. You're going to want enough resistance in the quick release lever that you feel the resistance when it's at the halfway point. And it should take 2 hands to close it. Close the lever so that it runs parallel with the fork leg. Make sure it's closed all the way. It should take significant force. With the front wheel in, go ahead, close the front brakes using the black lever, and put the bicycle on its kickstand. We're now going to install your front fender and your front light. You're going to need your 10mm open end wrench and your 5mm Allen wrench. Remove the nut and contoured washer. Then, with your brake lever in the up position, remove the brake itself. Remove the contoured washer as well from the front of the brake. Now, install your light facing forward and then replace the contoured washer. Flat side toward the light, contoured side towards the fork. And insert the brake with light back into the front of the bike. Now, grab your front fender. Holding everything in place, install the front fender by first putting the contoured washer in, contoured side toward the fork, flat side toward the fender, and nut. Using your 10mm wrench, tighten, making sure your light's in the correct position and your fender is pushed all the way up. You'll also want to make sure that your brake remains centered. As you get close to tightening everything down, close your brake and make sure that the pads are centered around the rim. Make sure that the fender is pushed all the way up and tighten. Using your 5mm Allen, remove the bolts on each side of the fork leg. Taking the bolt and washer, put it through the fender strut and reinstall. Repeat this process on the other side. With everything tightened, pick up the front of the bike and spin the wheel. The wheel should spin freely, not rubbing on the fender, and the brake pads should be centered so that when you grab the brake, there's an equal distance between the brake pads and the rim. Your light should be centered. Now let's move on to the seat and seat post. Take your seat and seat post and with the quick release lever open, insert it in the bike. Please take note to the minimum insertion mark on the seat post. Make sure that your seat post is inserted at least past the minimum insertion mark. So the minimum insertion mark should not be showing. Once it's properly inserted, go ahead and close the quick release lever. You're going to want enough resistance on the quick release lever that it gets tight when it's at the parallel spot. So you may need to add a little bit more tension on the nut on the non-drive side. And it will require two hands, one bracing the bike and one closing the lever to properly close it. Now let's move on to the pedals. Grab your two pedals, the R and the L for right and left. The right is the drive side of the bike. This is standard threading. The left is the non-drive side of the bike. This is reverse threaded. Let's start with the drive side. Using your 15mm wrench, go ahead and install. First, using your hand, and next, using the wrench to get it really tight. It's important that you get your pedals really tight on the bike. You should put enough power into the wrench that the wrench leaves an indentation in the palm of your hand. On the non-drive side of the bike, you're going to want to install the pedal reverse thread. This means counterclockwise. Install first again with your fingers, and then with the wrench. Just like before, we want to get this really tight. Put enough force into the wrench that the wrench leaves an indentation in the palm of your hand. With your pedals tight, let's move on to your rear rack. You're going to need a 4mm Allen wrench. First, remove both sides of the fender struts using your Allen wrench. Take each bolt and washer, put it through the rack strut, and then through the fender strut. And then install using the rearmost hole on the dropout. Repeat the same process on the other side. Now, using your 4mm Allen wrench, remove the bolts on the seat stay of the bike. Then take each bolt and install it on the seat stay of the bike. You may need to hold the rack arms close to the frame while you do this. Repeat on the other side. With your rear rack on, you're going to want to install your water bottle cage if it wasn't already installed. Use your 4mm Allen wrench to install your water bottle cage. Your basic assembly is now done. Let's install the reflectors. For each reflector, front and rear, remove the Phillips head screw, open the clamp around the handlebar, and tighten. The front reflector is clear, the rear reflector is red. Both should be perpendicular with the ground. Install both front and rear reflectors. Now's a good time to grab your 6mm Allen wrench and make sure that your stem is straight with your tire and tighten. Get your handlebars at your desired angle and tighten. Now with your basic assembly complete, go through every nut and bolt on the bike, the ones we touched today and the ones we didn't. Make sure that everything is tight. Then, before you start riding, make sure and have a professional bicycle mechanic safety check your bike. We're really excited about the new proof and what our team's been able to accomplish. We're really thankful for your support. If you have any questions now or during the ownership of your priority proof, please contact us anytime. Our information's on screen and we're quickest on text and email. Thank you so much for your support on this important project. We hope you love your new proof as much as we do.